So this is the Khoodeelaar television channel, broadcasting under the banner of BabyAngelGeronimo Manifesto editions. Khoodeelaar television channel, timed at 00:50 hours GMT, London, UK, on the So the two parents of the two students, teenage students at the University of Nottingham, who were murdered by the criminal who has been allowed not to be prosecuted for murder. So their statement is headed on the front page of the Times of Saturday, the 9th of March 2024. We've lost faith in justice, says stab victims' mothers. In an emotional interview, parents accuse police and the Crown Prosecution Service of failing them over Nottingham killings. There is something very wrong with the heading because it presumes the existence of justice in the United Kingdom. There isn't any justice in the United Kingdom. And the Times is edited, whoever is sub-editing is sub-edited by people under the general overall editorial policy. Those who believe that there is justice, but there is no justice. And especially when it comes to the police, time after time, even according to the Times and other Murdoch outlets, Rupert Murdoch owned and controlled outlets, evidence appears. Evidence appears in 99% of the cases that there is no justice, there is no ethics, there is no morality, there is no accountability, there is no compassion in the behavior of the UK state. This piece is byline to Fiona Hamilton, chief reporter. And the first paragraph reads, the mothers of two students fatally stabbed in Nottingham. Notice this, she's not talking about murder. Fiona Hamilton's piece does not use the concept of murder. And yet in the actual interview published in the Times Saturday magazine, the assertion is made by the parents that the murderer of their children should have been prosecuted for murder. This is the version on the Times magazine. The murder of their children, students Grace and Barney, in Nottingham last summer brought mothers Sinead O'Malley Kuma and Emma Weber together in grief. Now they are united in their determination to hold the police and the justice system to account for what they see as a shocking catalogue of failures. Interview by Fiona Hamilton. And there are the pictures of these two children murdered, and there is a picture of the two moms sitting side by side. That is the main picture in the magazine article. And we'll be coming to that. And this name, that is the name that I have to remind myself of, Valdo Kalokeni. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that's the spelling. Valdo Kalokeni. And there is a highlight in the article on page 17. We trusted the system, but failings and ineptness have added to our pain. We shall come to the use of the language and the use of the words ineptness. And the last two paragraphs of the article by Fiona Hamilton, they take each day at a time. The families are close, which helps. It's lucky we get along. Sinead laughs. In a few weeks, Ian's son, James, is getting married, and the other two families are invited. The wedding breakfast is at the Cozy Club in Nottingham, the last place Emma and Dave had brunch with Barney just 2 weeks before the attacks. I said to Dave, it's bittersweet, but we are going in for a celebration, Emma says. We want to go. They're such lovely people. I've been assured that in the fullness of time, the pain of these memories will become the warmth of memories. That's not happening yet. Now, Emma is the mom of Barney Weber, and Sinead is, of course, the mom of Grace O'Malley Kuma. Two of them were friends, and Grace was murdered by the murderer when the murderer was attacking Barney, and Grace tried to help Barney. So the second paragraph on the front page of the Times by Fiona Hamilton, chief reporter, reads, Dr. Sinead O'Malley Kuma and Emma Weber told the Times they felt foolish for believing that justice would be done after Valdo Kalokeni randomly attacked their children. Grace and Barnaby, both 19, in the street. Kalokeni, 32, who also killed Ian Coates, 65, a caretaker, in a rampage last summer, was given a hospital order in January, that is January 2024. The mothers giving their first joint interview to a newspaper raised questions about the rigor of the police investigation and warned that the authorities appear to ignore evidence that did not fit their narrative of Kalokeni having severe mental health problems. Weber, 51, said, I feel like it's a statistic. A cheaper, easier win? I know it's contentious to say it. However, I've lost my precious son, so I feel entitled to have that opinion. They also said they had completely lost faith in Nottinghamshire police after officers on a WhatsApp group shared abhorrent remarks about the injuries suffered by the teenagers, who both died of stab wounds to the chest and abdomen. Speaking candidly of their grief, the mother said that it was sometimes too difficult to look at the photographs of Grace and Barnaby, known as Barney, because the pain was overwhelming. It was hard to see their children's friends when their own son and daughter, who had just finished their first year at the University of Nottingham, were frozen at 19. They, with their husbands, Sanjoy and Dave, as well as Coates' family, want a public inquiry to examine police and NHS failings. before the killings, as well as the process that led to Kalokani being convicted of manslaughter rather than being tried for murder. Omali Kumar, 54, said, "Grace is gone. Barney is gone. We've got nothing else to fight for. All we can do is have no regrets that we have done our best to get the answers we want, and we are going to get justice for our children." Kalokani, a mechanical engineering graduate diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, is being detained at a high-security hospital. Both Omali Kumar, a consultant anesthetist, and Weber, a PR consultant, said they understood that hospital orders were necessary in some cases. However, they could not fathom why Kalokani did not. So we go into the page, inside page 5. So inside page 5, at the bottom of page 5, face a murder trial when he had long periods of lucidity, planned his crimes, lay in wait for their children, and had stopped taking his medication. Omali Kumar said, "I think they just looked at the fact he had a diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia and decided, right, that's it. That easily fits." If Kalokani was in the grip of psychosis, as psychiatrists insisted, Omali Kumar questioned why mental health concerns were not raised during his first days in police custody in June. It took until September for him to restart medication, and he was not moved to a mental health facility until November. He had been sectioned 4 times, but was well enough to hold down a job for long periods and complete his degree the previous year. He was released to the care of his GP rather than closer monitoring, she said. The mothers also questioned why police did not carry out toxicology tests to rule out drug taking. Kalokani would not have had the option of a diminished responsibility plea if he had used drugs. At the time of the stabbings, Kalokani was wanted for assault, but police failed to detain him even when they were called to an altercation at his workplace. He had not been arrested during previous violent episodes. Omali Kumar and Weber criticized the abhorrent voyeurism and fatigue to human misery shown by officers who exchanged messages about their children's injuries, and one who viewed body cam footage of Barney being treated in the street. Asked if they had faith in the police, both replied no. They said police had told the families that murder was irrefutable before the decision to accept manslaughter was dropped on them in a Zoom call a few days before a hearing in November. The families say their requests for the information on the decision-making process and statements in the case are being blocked. A series of independent inquiries have been announced, and Victoria Prentice, the Attorney General, has referred the sentence to the Court of Appeal as being unduly lenient. The Crown Prosecution Service and police declined to answer specific questions, but said that they were engaging with reviews. Now, this is the end of the news item version written by Fiona Hamilton. The contents, the summarized contents of that news item actually confirm the trend in the UK judicial inquiry events. If the evidence is examined of the various judicial inquiries into various wrongdoings by the state and state agencies and failings, say of the last 300 years, I'm saying 300 years. If the evidence is examined, then it will appear that there are two aspects to these inquiries. I have pointed out before. One is the actual conclusion, the recommendation, that is, whatever the inquiry findings, there is a recommendation at the end of an inquiry. And the other aspect is the contents of the evidence. The contents of the evidence looked at by and presented to any inquiry over the last 300 years, judicial inquiry, let's say, are at variance with the actual recommendations. But even the recommendations themselves are ignored in the end and have been ignored. As I have said in the last 3-4 years of broadcasting on this platform and posted on our social media accounts, the failings of the police was investigated in a rare kind of series of reports by the Times newspaper in London in the 1960s and 1970s. Until that happened, there was no evidence of the media actually looking at the behavior of the police, the main major police force. And what these two parents of the murdered children are saying about Nottingham police actually has applied to the Metropolitan Police. So this is actually continuing an interrupted bulletin of the Khoodeelaar television channel, broadcasting under the banner of BabyAngelGeronimoManifesto editions. This is now 01:24 hours GMT, London, Sunday, the 10th of March 2024. We are still talking about the Saturday edition of the London Times newspaper, which runs the main lead story on page 1, headed, "We've lost faith in justice," say stab victims' mothers. The stab victims are Barnaby Weber, his mum Emma Weber, and Grace Omali Kumar's mother, Sinead Omani Kumar. They've given the only newspaper interview What does it say? Yes. The mothers giving their first joint interview to a newspaper raised questions about the rigor of the police investigation and warned that the authorities appear to ignore evidence that did not fit their narrative of having severe mental health problems. As I was saying earlier, the Times newspaper is the only newspaper in Britain that actually ran a story based on investigation into the behavior, conduct, and the role of the London Metropolitan Police. Also, mysteriously continues to be called Scotland Yard, as if calling it a Scotland Yard or the Scotland Yard somehow removes the evidence of incompetence, bias, unaccountability, and lack of rigor. This is extrapolated to the behavior of other police forces across England. In this case, the behavior of the Nottinghamshire police force. And the Times newspaper is, of course, owned by the same organization that owns the Sun, which we call Scum. And Saturday's Sun newspaper, whether it's a coincidence or not, has got a opinion piece by Leo McNasty. We call him Leo McNasty. But his name is spelled Leo McKinstry. Now we call him McNasty because he's a racist. He's a racist, he's a Zionist, and he is a long time associate of the Labour Party's Member of Parliament, Harriet Harman, who is racist. Harriet Harman is the one who played a key part while a member of the cabinet of the last Labour government fronted by Tony Blair, followed by Gordon Brown, in dismantling what was, in our view, the Commission for Racist Enslavement, CRE, and she replaced the CRE with what has been the Equalities and Human Rights Commission, which is even worse. But Harriet Harman used the mental slave the long-running mental slave Trevor Terrible Phillips in carrying out the further degeneration of the so-called CRE. Now, McNasty has been an advisor to Harriet Harman, but since she ceased to be a cabinet member, he has been employed by the Times group that owns the Times newspaper, which is the Scum, and also has been given platforms by the Daily Mail, which both of them, the Times and the Scum and the Daily Mail, have the same right-wing agenda. In context, the right-wing agenda means that they, in principle, in policy terms, they have been opposed to any rigorous organization that would ideally hold to account a government agency, a government department. And in the years before the CRE was replaced by the degenerated outfit, there was no investigation. There was absolutely no investigation of the police, either in the London Metropolitan Police or in any other part of the United Kingdom or England. So there is no real evidence of the investigation of the police from the standpoint of the so-called race relations legislation. There have been, of course, investigation of the London Metropolitan Police after the police conduct was heavily criticized in public following the murder of Stephen Lawrence in April 1993. But it didn't take place, that inquiry, until years later when Tony Blair fronted the Labour Party's electoral return to power in May 1997. So the inquiry that was set up into the behavior of the London Metropolitan Police was called the Macpherson Inquiry. And the name Macpherson comes from the name of the chair of the inquiry, who is a former judge. And it was Macpherson who played a racist role by, at the beginning of the inquiry, the beginning of the taking of the evidence, linguistically obstructing the use of the word the London Metropolitan Police was racist. He inserted the contradictory term institutionally racist. Now that completely fucked up the whole purpose. The purpose was initially to deal with the widespread evidential allegations against the London Metropolitan Police that they messed up on purpose, messed up the inquiry into the racists murdering Stephen Lawrence because they were racists. So Macpherson fucked up the whole purpose of the inquiry that he proceeded to chair for years. The word institutionally racist, thus compromising, neutralizing, sabotaging the purpose and the rigor. So that is Saturday's Scum newspaper has got this item on page 10, which is the editorial page, so-called, which has got the banner as 1,000 trains a day are cancelled from railways and roads to schools and hospitals. Why does nothing in Britain work? That is the question that is the heading to Leo McNasty's piece. Well, the answer is in the actual heading, because in all the institutions, all the formal official inquiries, investigations, etc., 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 the evidence shown, the executive, in the case of the murder, racist murder of, for example, the evidence presented has shown that the executive, in this case the Metropolitan Police, were demonstrably biased, prejudiced on the evidence. But the findings of such inquiries as the Macpherson inquiry have been watered down. And even the watered down findings are never implemented. The previous comparable, subject-wise, topically comparable official inquiry, so-called, one that was called the Scarman inquiry. That was named after Leslie Scarman, who was a former senior judge in the judiciary. And the Scarman report and the evidence that Scarman inquiry heard was obviously stronger against the police behavior than the findings that Scarman actually put together as his report. But even the Scarman report was not implemented, carried out, because had the relevant Scarman inquiry report findings and recommendations had been in place, in process, then, and the prejudice which the Macpherson inquiry was forced to look at would not have happened, and the police would not have treated the murderers of Stephen Lawrence as being untraceable, unidentifiable, unrecognizable effectively. So Leo McNasty, we call him Leo McNasty for the simple reason that on all the topical, on the key issues to do with racism, racist prejudice, and right-wing reactionary behavior, Leo McNasty supports and has supported the racist status quo, the anti-Muslim status quo, the anti-black status quo, and the pro-imperialist status quo. For example, these summarized words that actually constitute this heading From railways and roads to schools and hospitals, why does nothing in Britain work? Now, that question is answered by the contents of the piece and also by the heading itself. Because whenever rigorous analysis, factual analysis, is conducted by independent sources that are not agents of the state agencies, the likes of Leo McNasty are deployed to condemn those critics, either in the Daily Mail or the Mail on Sunday, or on the Scum, or the Scum on Sunday, or in other parts of the media, especially by the Daily Telegraph, the Daily Express, the Sunday Telegraph, the Sunday Express. And there is nothing in the rest of the Fleet Street media, for example, typified by The Guardian, that comes anywhere near matching the actual standard and the height needed to discredit these falsehoods. So Leo McNasty is saying, why doesn't anything in Britain work? And the answer is that because the likes of him justify the negligent, the unrigorous, the corrupt status quo, the racist status quo. In the years since Leo McNasty has become a Fleet Street employed freelancer or commentator, he has not once taken a stand for the targets of racism and has not ever condemned the corruption that dominates the British state, the organs of the state. So this question, why did Britain work, is answered by the fact that the likes of him are responsible. They are complicit. Leo McNasty is one of the crooks, corrupt, self-serving individuals given platform by the Daily Mail, Mail on Sunday, and the Scum. The other criminal that is given a prominent platform is, of course, the racist Little John on the Daily Mail. Now, the racist Little John alternates between the Murdoch titles and the Daily Mail titles. And along with racist Little John, there are criminals like Jeremy Clarkson, criminals like Tony Parson, and other assorted, listable criminals that have the platform dedicated to attacking objective, independent campaigners for rigorous action, rigorous conduct, accountable conduct by the state agencies. And in this piece, from railways and roads to schools and hospitals, why does nothing in Britain work? In the Saturday edition of the Scum, Leo McNasty starts by, in the first paragraph, the punctuality of trains is taken seriously in Japan. Why is he setting Japan as an example? In 2017, the company which manages the express line between the capital Tokyo and the city of Tsukuba issued a formal apology when one of its trains left 20 seconds early. Similarly, in 2021, a driver was fined for turning up 1 minute late at the platform to take an empty train to Okaima station. To most of us in Britain, immersed in a transport culture of chronic delays and institutionalized unreliability, these two incidents seem almost surreal. In parts of our network, restricting lateness to just 1 minute would be a cause for celebration rather than reprimand. If our operators had to apologize for every 20-second deviation from the scheduled timetable, the station loudspeaker would never be silent. Now, Leo McNasty, of course, has not commended the Japanese when it comes to the behavior of the Fujitsu company. This is the interrupted second part, I think, of this bulletin because of the IT issues. It's still causing problems in connections. So continuing with our critique of Leo McNasty's piece on the Sun, page 10 of the Sun on Saturday, 9th of March 2024. We connect this with the front page of the Times, which says, "We've lost faith in justice," says starved victims' mothers. And there, Fiona Hamilton, who is described there as the chief reporter of the Times, perpetuates an untruth, which is the untruth that there is justice normally, and that the lack of justice that the two mothers of the two victims of Valdo Calconi are complaining about was an exception. That is the opposite of the truth. The truth is that there is no justice, there has not been a justice. And the reason why there cannot be justice in Britain in the behavior of the police, the CPS, that is the Crown Prosecution Service, and the decision making by the Director of Public Prosecutions, and the various stages of the police allegedly carrying out the inquiry, investigation, etc. Those activities are not conducted according to the objectively defined standards, highest standards of accountability, transparency, due process. And there is no actual forum where the Director of Public Prosecution